Language is actually fascinating. Most of the work I did was at the discourse level, right? So looking at language in use. So how do we understand each other? You know, we, especially in our English language, we are often not direct in what we say, yet we still make sense of each other, right? There are all of these skills we have to have in order to understand each other. So there's all kinds of ways we say what we mean, and we don't say literally what we mean, and we all have to figure out what people mean and try to interpret what people mean. And that's quite a feat.
13 years ago, Jeanette came to realize that words can be more powerful than she ever imagined.
Well, Ben is my son, and I have two sons. Matt was born first, and he was born on May 29th. And then 3 years later, Ben was born on May 29th as well. And, you know, we had this sort of happy, simple life and had these beautiful kids. And 3 years, nearly 3 years after he was born, you know, we lost him very suddenly and unexpectedly. It was a normal day. We were home. I was home with Matt and Ben, and a friend was over. One of the kids' friends was over as well. And Ben had a cold, and I wasn't worried about him. What I didn't know is that he had croup virus and that his airway was closing. And it did. It closed suddenly. And the next thing I knew, I was giving him CPR, and the ambulance was on its way. And they arrived, and they resuscitated him, but he had been out too long, and so he died the next day in the hospital. Well, it was remarkable how people swarmed around us. It was completely life-saving. I learned quickly that when people talked a lot and people sort of feel the need to say something, it often hurt. And it wasn't until later that I could sort of analyze why, and I can certainly speak to that now. But at the time, I just knew that some stuff that people said just hurt. And I knew that their intentions were positive and they were trying to help, but I also knew that the words really, really stung.
Now Jeanette calls on her linguistic training and personal experiences to help others in similar situations use their words for kindness, teaching what to say and what not to say.
And again, I want to emphasize that I realize that this all comes from good intention. And I realize that I probably have also said these things in my lifetime, right? And I recognize that the only way that we can sort of get better at this is if we talk about it. So at least statements, for example, at least you have another son. At least Ben died quickly. At least he didn't suffer. At least you're young enough to have another child. Any sentence that started with the words, you should, also hurt. You know, you should write about this. You should do this. You should do that. The statement, and this was very, very common, be strong. Be strong. That one almost enraged me. And I had to really calm myself around that one. Be strong. Because I guess the subtext for me in that statement is, you know, stop crying, please stop crying because you're making people feel uncomfortable, right? Or what does be strong mean, right? I thought that the fact that I was up and breathing and walking around must be evidence enough that I was strong, because man, I did not want to be up and breathing and, you know, up and about. I wanted to be curled up. Any comment around what I could have or should have done during his death was absolutely impossible to hear. Somebody told me I should learn how to do a tracheotomy. Somebody actually said that to me. You know, people would say religious things. Again, that didn't hurt as badly, but I'm not a religious person. So that was sort of interesting, the things around God needing a little angel, and, you know, Ben being with God and Ben being in heaven and that sort of thing. And there aren't a lot of great words, right? At least initially. So the things that felt good were, I'm sorry, but said in a tone that was really vulnerable and real, right? So it was more around people's tone and their feel than around actually what they were saying necessarily. I very much appreciated it when people said, I don't know what to say, but I want you to know I'm here. Or I don't know what to say, but I love you. That was powerful. So I very much appreciated people had the courage to come up to me and say something to me, even if sometimes it wouldn't be the perfect thing to say, right? The perfect thing to say was, I love you. I'm here. I'm thinking about you. I'm going to keep checking in with you.
Sometimes the most common phrases don't project the message or meaning the speaker intends.
So, call me if you need anything is a wonderful sentiment, but the grieving person cannot orchestrate their grief support. Your brain is so muddled and so maxed out with everything that there's no way you're going to call somebody and ask them for help. So I suggest that people try to think of something specific to offer, and then the person will say yes or no. So how are you? Linguistically, again, it's a greeting. We don't expect sort of the real, oh, well, actually, right? It's oh, yeah, I'm good. How are you? I'm good, right? So there's how are you, the greeting, which is actually, could be dangerous in this situation, in a grieving situation, right? And then there's how are you, really wanting to know how the person's doing. So sometimes just adding the word today at the end of that, how are you doing today, acknowledges that the grief process is sort of up and down and all over the place. Grieving people are supposed to feel sad. Sadness is not, it's the right thing for them to be feeling, right? So the supporter of the grieving person's job is not to cheer up the grieving person. And so allowing them to feel sad, but allowing them to feel safe and supported while they feel sad is the job of the supporter. For us to have people around us who love and care for us, who can just be in it and not have to judge it or change it or fix it, is incredibly powerful.
To cope with their grief, Jeanette and her family began working with clay in their backyard. On the first anniversary of Ben's death, family and friends hung hundreds of handmade ceramic Ben's bells with messages of kindness throughout Tucson.
Ben's Bells comes out of exactly what we're talking about. Ben's Bells was born because my family and I recognized how vital this sort of circle of community and kindness was around us. The kindness didn't take away the sadness. The kindness sort of protected us while we felt the sadness, and that made us feel safe. Supporting somebody who's grieving is a skill. We can't just assume that people are going to understand what kindness looks like in these situations, by osmosis. People actually need to have these conversations. We sort of felt the need to communicate this, man, kindness is so much more important than it seems. It's so much more powerful. It's so much tougher and stronger than our culture sort of gives it credit. We're experiencing so much of it. We want to show gratitude for it. And so we came up with Ben's Bells as a way to celebrate kindness, to show gratitude for it, to celebrate Ben and his life.
Ben's Bells is now a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting the power of intentional kindness. It brings together community members to create and give away bells as reminders to be kind. Since its inception, Ben's Bells has hung more than 47,000 bells throughout the United States, all with messages about the power of kindness and its ability to heal.